What is going on, guys? This is Waylon Martin with Bodybuilding.News, a bodybuilding news resource for real bodybuilding. Today we are covering the Kuwait Pro. This contest was surprisingly won by Big Ramy. Yes, Dexter Jackson was upset at the contest, coming in second place right behind Ramy. This was a huge upset and definitely elevates Ramy even further into that Olympia type discussion. Phil Heath has to be paying attention now as Ramy steps even closer and closer, biting at his heels for that Olympia type title. Though Ramy has yet to win something like the main Arnold held in Columbus, he's that caliber of athlete, and he just proved that here today in Kuwait. The reason Ramy wins these shows is because he's so massive, aesthetic, and still conditioned, which displays all of that. And all of these factors have improved in the time that we've seen him compete as a pro, coming to a head today where he's looked arguably the best he's ever looked. Though debatably, Ramy could have won last week, this week in Kuwait, he left with the title. And it's hard to argue it's due to regional favoritism. However, Dexter Jackson looked better than he did last week, slightly tighter in my opinion, and a little bit sharper around the edges. Again, Dexter brings that classically aesthetically pleasing physique and lines with the 2016 type mass. However, Ramy brings the mass to another level, as well as having a very unique density, aesthetic, and pop to the muscle. And although it's apples and oranges compared to Dexter, Dexter is beginning to fade on the final night of his career, whereas we're seeing Ramy come into a peak of sorts. And if not, he's going to get even better going forward. Now, Ramy and Dexter are both already qualified for a 2017 Olympia, so it'll be interesting to see if we see them compete anytime next season before then. In third place, Shawn Rhoden. Shawn improved his placing from last week and definitely looked better. It wasn't enough to challenge a guy like Ramy or Dexter who were on for this contest, as Shawn wasn't particularly on for this contest, just a sharper version of what we had seen the week prior. That's why he was beating a guy like Bonac who fell all the way into fifth place, as well as Roelly. Roelly, who came in fourth place, looked fantastic, beating Bonac, so moved up to placing, but it was, again, just not enough. He has a lot of the same positive attributes as these other guys with a few added negatives, such as an uncontrolled waistline. That's not to say that when he's in a pose such as a front double bicep or something, his waist doesn't look amazing. It does. However, say like a most muscular, where he's arched over, he definitely gets that turtle shell type pop to the belly. And it's just a lack of control that, although not a major deal because in the mandatory poses it's not displayed too much, that's why Arnold took note of it last year. It could even just be the lighting at these contests because all these guys seem slightly improved from their prior showing last week. However, Roelly looked really good here. Positive indications he's again going to be one of those guys always in the mix, always going to be able to win these Europa type shows. And that brings us to fifth place, William Bonac. William, disappointed I'm sure after last week where he came in third, beating Rhoden who had just came in second at the Olympia, falling down to fifth place. Bonac ends up at this contest. He looked great, nonetheless, a little bit softer than what we had seen last week. Well, a lot of the guys came in sharper, a little bit more dialed in. Bonac was the one guy to take half a step backwards, not even a full step back, because he's still placed at a very dense competition. Looked great, nonetheless. In his most muscular, for example, still very aesthetic, very powerful, and very big for a formerly little guy in comparison, as he was once a 212, 202 competitor. Notables at this contest, Victor Martinez. Victor, a former Olympia runner-up, another guy who's looked great. We're starting to see with Victor that the factor going against him is age and nothing else. He still brought conditioning in this show, had striated glutes, a thin waist, actually probably one of the best waist and tapers we've seen on Victor in a while. He's just fading, he's taking a step back, and it is what it is. It's an uphill battle for Victor. He's still a great champion of the sport. He still has every right to be up there because he still looks fantastic, but let's call it for what it is. And he's definitely beginning to regress, and we're seeing it in the placings. Nonetheless, still going to be a guy that can win these lower tier contests. Another notable, Nathan DeAsha. Although he didn't finish placing, he looked great and was very comparable to Victor, which is not bad company to be with. If there's one thing to note about Nathan that's holding him back right now, definitely his hamstring shots and the side hamstring shots, he lacks a lot of the depth that these guys have. And I feel like this type of issue is going to haunt Nathan until he adds another level of mass. He's definitely already in the mix with these top guys, having won a pro show, etc. But if he wants to be able to win, say, an Arnold or an Olympia, he needs to add another level to his physique. Well, many are trying to compare him to guys like Phil Heath. I think a much more realistic comparison right now was the guy who was going to call out with him at this show, Brendan Curry. They both have huge amounts of potential, some of the same flaws in their physique at this point in their careers. However, Curry is at a much later stage than DeAsha is. And so because of his potential, we have to hope that DeAsha going forward, for our amusement as fans of the sport of bodybuilding, continues to improve. But right now, we only can judge off of what we see. And that is just a lower tier competitor for now against these top guys like a Ramy. A lot of prize money was given at the Kuwait Pro, with O2 Gym and Bader Boodai being one of the primary sponsors. So it's good for the sport of bodybuilding to get this type of financial influence in there. It's good to get a more worldly approach that's expanding the viewership of sports and the type of people it draws in. And it was just a good presentation in general, a really fun show. Good live web stream, which shows that the technology is improving within our industry, etc. A lot of positive indications at this show. Even Olympia indications, with Ramy upsetting the apple cart here, beating Dexter Jackson. Guys, for more reviews like these, check out Bodybuilding.News, our YouTube page, like and subscribe. My name is Waylon Martin with Bodybuilding.News.